If I can say one thing about us Khans, is that the more you beat us, the stronger we come out. Parvarish, genetic, pure luck. The more we are pushed against a wall, we come back very strong. At a low point in that time, there was one producer I was working with. He used to constantly tell me, like, "Tu zara seriously le apna kaam. तुझे धक्का मिलेगा ना तब तुझे पता चलेगा." Today it makes sense to me. You can psychologically destroy people just at the press of a button. If you dig deep and you pull all of those things together, you still have a chance of coming out of it. Fardeen has shown great character. I'm very proud of him.
Hi and welcome to an exciting episode of Flashback with the Stars. And we have an actor who's all set to return with a bang, Zayed Khan.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you very much. It's a very sweet introduction. Flashbacks or no flashbacks. This is what it is. How are you?
Good. But we had, of course, been missing you on screen. So why did it take so long to?
One answer could be that, I really wanted to spend time with my children. They were at a very tender age, and I felt that it'd be imperative to, spend some growing years with them. I remember when I'm shooting, I'm pretty much out the whole day. I come back, I'm back into the same gear, and I just keep losing out on these milestone moments for them. Sometimes you have to find your mojo again, and sometimes you could be doing things that you feel that are really working for you, or this is the right thing to do, and I think sometimes you just need to take a step back and see the canvas from the far and understand what you want to do. Do you really want to do this? And plus, of course, then COVID came, and I didn't expect it to be for such a long time. By the time the chain and the industry started getting its teeth back again, it was about 3 years. Just wiped off. So any which way, we had a good time learning a lot of things, humbled us. So I think that's...
Yeah, and speaking of your own childhood, of course, your dad is a known actor, director, producer. So how was it growing up in a film family?
Growing up in a film family, there was always conversation about, good performances, good art, good work, the next best breakthrough as far as cinema was concerned. Big ticket movies, so I mean, it's just like you would have, a lawyer's family or a doctor's family or anybody's family have conversation that's relevant to the trade of the house. In the same way, our family was no different. We were always, loving the fact that, art was so well celebrated, and it's a great reflection of society. What you bring on screen, and sometimes what people go to watch, can be two different things. Are you missing the point, or are you getting the point? Every Friday you discover whether you've hit home or not. So the process is constantly on of rediscovering.
Yeah. And with 3 sisters and being the only brother, so did they bully you, or was it the other way around?
Yeah, I mean, needless to say, they bullied me a lot. They were all older to me, and they were all very fierce and solid women, with great character, and always, had this center of truth that governed them. It was sort of on one side easy being naughty, because I didn't have the responsibility to be so governed by my center, because I had so many governesses around me. Was I bullied? Was I spoiled? I think a merry mix of everything. Yeah. It's in a way I wouldn't want it any other way. I was very blessed, and I thank my blessings.
And of course, you have had your own challenges while growing up. Like we know, your dad, had a horrific accident on set, and seeing all that at a young age and dealing with it as a family, like overnight when things changed. So how did you take that as a young child?
Well, one thing's for sure, that reality bites really hard. Yeah. The illusion of success and living the tide of success breaks down into reality, and it was tough. And I think I was 11 years old when it all happened, and I was living in a lap of luxury. provided by my parents, who worked very hard to achieve what they've achieved. And all of a sudden, it was all taken out. And I remember my mother telling me that, I think you need to go to boarding school. And I was pretty game with the idea, because at that point in time, I wasn't contributing much to making things work out. Even emotionally, I felt that, I was so useless,
Yeah, but you were a
considering
child.
the
Yeah.
circumstances, So the best thing I could tell my parents straight-eyed is that, I would love to go to boarding school. Did I mean it at the time I said it? I don't know. I just knew that, I think that will be great, because it'll be a relief for them. And I remember when I went to my school and my mom was dropping me at my dorm, and she opened this van, and there's this huge, dormitory, and all these big guys walking around, and they all saw me, and they're like, "Acha, iski to lagne wali hai aaj," types. Yeah. I think my mom almost broke into tears, and I just looked at her and I said, "Please don't cry, I'll be fine." And she was like, I just gave her a hug. I said, "Don't worry, I'll be fine," And yeah, I mean, when you get into boarding school and you're at par with everybody, there's this massive kind of thing about seniority and juniors that come into effect. I was surprised to see that I took to it quite well. Okay. I was, initially, there was a bit of bullying here and there, and nothing out of the ordinary. Sometimes when you say that, nothing out of the ordinary at that time was quite drastic. Right now, I think it's toned down a lot. But yeah, we used to be really punished and kicked and, murgad and, doing everything that was physically, honestly, untenable at some point in time. But the worst thing you can do is cry. So you never cry, you never shed a tear. You just keep taking it. And I think at some point in time, that kind of built into me, And boarding school, on the brighter side, it really unleashed me as a person. I became excellent at sports, at elocution, at drama. My grades were okay. I made many friends across India. I learnt different cultures. I learnt, different, dialects from people who lived in states, but they lived in certain areas within those states that were completely different from anything I'd ever seen living in Bombay, And it was just amazing. It was amazing to know that I had so much inside of me. And, they say necessity is the mother of all inventions. So when you're pushed against the wall, sometimes, you can be, brilliance can come out, and sometimes, wither away, and if you're not strong enough. But yeah, you grow thick skin. From there on end, I remember, I was from one school to the other. Then I went to the United States, I studied in university. Then I came to London and I studied there. So pretty much from the age of 11 to 23, 22, I was out. I was always from a suitcase and from a little trunk bag, and many different people across the planet, which was the best education I could ever have asked for, actually.
True, that's so true. And it's actually surprising how well you took to the change, because most people would be flustered, from luxury to boarding school.
I thank my lucky stars that I had some good friends and some good people around. And also, I definitely feel going to boarding school, you've got to be physically really strong, Either you're physically really strong or you're a genius, or one of the two. If you're somewhere in between, you're not in a good space. I had that edge where I was, pretty much blessed with a good physicality, and, I was a tough guy, so there was not too much pushing around beyond a point. But I don't feel the same for many people that went there. And some people couldn't stand boarding school. I remember people coming in to boarding school, and after 3 days they're just being miserable, and their parents coming back and picking them up, and I've seen that, and my heart goes out to them because some people are just not made for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And school is also where you met your now wife, Malaika. So how did that happen? How did that love story happen?
Man, that was a love story straight out of the movie books. When I went to boarding school, I mean, I had 3 elder sisters. They all had these long-term relationships, going on, and I was not ever one for all of them. I wanted to be footloose and fancy-free until, when you say things like that, you have to bite your tongue, sometimes. Yeah. And I saw this very pretty girl, and her back was to me, and I saw her from behind, and she had this beautiful brown hair, very petite, and she turned around, and I was like, wow. I was like, who's that? And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's true. And today, of course, you all have 2 children as well. So
yeah, we have 2 children. We have 4 dogs, 1 cat, and lots of mayhem. The fun part about knowing somebody for that long, you're just joined by the hip. You're just literally, the bond is so incredible that at some point in time you outthink each other. It's nice in a way, it's not very nice in a way also. Okay. It can get dangerous.
Yeah. And do you remember how films happened? Because your sisters, of course, took to different professions, but you were the only one who was interested in acting.
I used to be a big fan of my father's movie, Abdullah, Mera Vachan Geeta Ki Kasam. I used to love these dacoit kind of characters that he used to play. So I used to dress up, and I used to take my gun, and I used to go around, bothering all the workers in the house, and break mangoes and chikus from the trees, and cycle on BMXs. And I was influenced by this whole bunch of movies like BMX Bandit and all these lovely films, E.T. and all of these things, So I knew from a very young age that I was going to be an actor. There was no doubt about that. It was just, when you come to your awkward teenagers and you're not looking like you can ever be an actor, and everybody's saying, तो क्या बनना चाहते हो तुम? मैं lawyer बनूंगा, or मैं ये बनूंगा. You don't want to tell anybody your secret ambition to become an actor, because mostly everybody used to just laugh at you. They used to be like, अरे तो बहुत पतला है, या नाक बहुत लंबी है तेरी, या तोंड है तेरे पास. So it's like everybody will constantly judge you from their angles. But yeah, secretly I always nurtured the fact that I wanted to be an actor, and finally, when I was in university and I was doing really well I'd taken up economics and political science and business administration, and I was doing well, but I wasn't kind of finding my groove or my grind, and I was like, am I going to lie to myself for the rest of my life like this, and say that I love it, and all of that. Well, the subjects were extremely amazing. I mean, I used to love economics as a subject because it teaches you so much about how the world works. I called up my father one day and I said, Pops, I really want to go to film school. And I think he was a bit disappointed at that time. He had this great ambition that I would become a lawyer, and there'll be this lawyer from the family and all of that. But you know how parents always have their own dreams for you. And I said, no, I want to go to a film school. So he said, okay, theek hai, you want to go to film school? You apply. If you get in, then I'll help you out. So I applied to many schools in the US. I didn't get into any. Then I applied to the London Film School, which was another prestigious school. And I got in, surprisingly. I think the failure of my deck for the other schools had taught me a lot as to how to manicure the right deck, by the third or fourth time. Yeah. So I'd become very good at now what are the expectations, out of, you have to write a script and a storyboard, and you have to write a little pro and a passage and an arc, and, I got very good at it by then. The minute I got news that I'm accepted, I was thrilled, and I just, I told my father, I'm accepted in London Film School and all. He was like, okay, great. So he's like, you're going to shift from the United States to London? I was like, yeah, sure, definitely. I had a great time in that school because I was taught by some great professors who had worked under Hitchcock and, people who had beautiful, credit line to their, their achievements. And our school was a very avant-garde kind of a school. I mean, we started learning everything from, editing on a PicSync to Steenbeck to literally films. You had to our first project was to take somebody else's silent movie and make our own story out of it. And there was just these, I remember it was just rolls of films lined up on these hooks, and you had to join them and staple them and stick them together and then see them through the entire, when we used to be taught about the camera, we used to have professors out there, about 16 students in the class, people would have their coffee, their cigarettes, and there would just be this great jamming session on the 35mm camera, which is of course all extinct right now. The idea of understanding lenses and taking and lighting and how everything really comes together was a phenomenal experiences, because today when I see my kids and everybody edit on Apple and all of that, they don't know the basic of why the 24 frames are there, or they don't know where the origin started from, where the actual algorithm started from. So sometimes I sit down with them and explain that this is from where it started. This is what editing was. I know right now you'll just throw in, within a matter of 2 minutes you can edit anything, right? Because you just have the tools. But that same time that they took to edit, we used to take 7-8 hours, because it was a physical job until Avid came in, and Avid was sort of like a little digital thing, and everybody was like, wow, we don't need to deal with film anymore. Yeah, it was great experience actually. Yeah, it was fantastic. So I came back and I remember sitting on Vikram Bhatt's set. Ritik was shooting with Amisha for that movie. And I'd been preparing physically and mentally, and dialogues and drama classes, and Kishore Namit Kapoor and M.M. Beg and everybody, and I was really ripped and I was geared to go. I was about 22 or 23 at the time, and this gentleman walks up to me while I'm sitting on the set, because he was producing that movie with Vikram Bhatt, and he was from Pantaloon. He comes to me, he's like, "Are you Mr. Sanjay Khan's son?" I said, "Damn, yeah, I'm Mr. Sanjay Khan's son. What happened?" So he's like, "You look good." I was like, "Oh, okay." So he's like, "Will you do a movie for me?" Okay. So I was like, "Yeah. Give me a day, let me think about it, Okay. I didn't know whether I could say yes, considering I come from a filmy background, and my dad would probably want to be the first person to do that. So I said, yeah, let me think about it, let me get back to you. And I know sometimes in passing, I said to everybody, I say yes, but I did not. I went back to my father and I said, "Pops, this offer's come on the table and I'm going to do it. It's the lead role." He looked at me very carefully and he says, "Do you know who you're working for?" I said, this is the company, this is the thing, this and that. So he looked at me, he says, "Good luck." I was like, "That's it?" I didn't know what to say, because my father's not made a film for me as yet. His entire demeanor has always been like, "Go do it yourself. You'll be a better actor, or you'll understand it better. And when you become a star, then I might cast you." So typical, Bollywood big producer talk. I feel it's only now that he is really taken to the work I'm doing, and my last film that I just showed him, that we just finished. He looks at me very intently and he said, "Zayed, you finally become an actor." I was like, after bloody 20 years. So yeah, the game is still on, and you got to constantly reinvent yourself, I guess.
Yeah, but you have been part of such memorable films, from Main Hoon Na to Das. So how was that phase? Do you remember that? Seeing that kind of success, and how did it kind of change you?
Like I said, success is like a major accident. You have to survive it. Yeah. It's when so much comes to you so soon, it takes a lot for you to fathom what is happening. I was hit like a train wreck with success. There was a time where I remember some top stars were nowhere in the picture when I had received the success I had done and the love from the people. I was so young and I was so filled with energy and almost like how Ranveer is right now. You know, he's such a robust and energetic, and he loves his job and he's such a wonderful kid and I'm a big fan of his. I had that kind of energy, you know. I just wanted to go and do everything and, you know, be in everybody's movies and everybody's production houses. And I think at that point in time, I should have probably taken it slower and not, you know, kind of hit the gas. But that's what happens when you're young, you know. You feel like it's never ending. It's always going to be like this.
You have been part of many multi-starrers, you know, not many actors would do that actually. So are there any regrets, like, you know, maybe some movies that you should have not done?
I had this idea of big ticket movies. And I wanted to be part of these movies that people would go to the cinema and watch. Often the budgets to these movies could only be justified when a lot of people come together. You know, I wasn't much of an art fan, and, you know, I wasn't much of a person who says, let me go and discover my craft. You know, I'll be very honest, probably in hindsight is the wrong move. Should have done a couple of more of those movies, like probably Shabd, you know. I didn't think I was making any kind of mistake at the time because on paper, all these films looked so damn good, right? I mean, there was just no way that they were not going to do well, you know, with the kind of direction and the actors and the backing and everything and the scripts. As you move on in life, you realize there's a difference between cup and lip. You know, you have a nice hot cup of tea and, you know, you're going to like savor the first sip. It doesn't mean that it's not going to spill over your shirt sometimes. That kind of taught me my equity went down a lot with those risks. Then the perception of how people start to see you starts to change. I mean, I was so young and frivolous. I didn't see it in that way. I felt that, you know, I was forever. And I remember at a low point in that time, there was one producer I was working with. And he used to constantly tell me, like, "Tu zara seriously le apna kaam." I said, "Kyun sir, ऐसे क्यों बोल रहे हो?" Like, नहीं, तुझे धक्का मिलेगा ना तब तुझे पता चलेगा. I said, आप ऐसे क्यों बोल रहे हो? तो he says, भाई देख जायद, ये बात सही है कि तू लंबी रेस का घोड़ा है, लेकिन अपने आप पे थोड़ा सा ध्यान दे. It all didn't make sense to me what he was saying. Today it makes sense to me. If I can say one thing about us Khans, is that the more you beat us, the stronger we come out. I don't know whether that's parvarish, genetic, or pure luck. But I can say that very sincerely and very thing. It's like the more we are pushed against a wall, the greater the realization, and something snaps inside of us. And we come back very strong, very seriously, understanding the pros and cons of the situation. And I can say that about practically most of the Khans.
But that time it was also easy to get typecast. Like for you, I think no one would cast you as a rural character. You know, you were seen as the anglicized, the rich brat. So how did you take to that?
It's okay. I mean, question is, if it's not fitting, it's not fitting. But at that point in time, there were a few films to go around. There were always different Rams and Shams in different universes. Just because I couldn't be the Ram and Sham of one universe doesn't mean I can't be the Ram and Sham of the other universe. So one thing is important is you should stick to what you're good at. And if you're going to experiment with something you're not, make sure that the director is super good. The director sees something in you that you don't see, then you're going to learn something along the way because he's going to like rugdify your ass to make sure that you come out on the other side because, you know, there are people like that. And now, I mean, it's all about preparation. I would like to surprise people. Even people who would want to cast me that way, they'd want to see a couple of hits to my name first so that they can take the risk of saying, "Ke nahi yaar, तू अभी भुवन खेलने वाला है लगान से. We were like, okay, ठीक है. You know, I'd like to experiment that now. I feel I've aged like wine on that, and I would like to experiment on.
That's lovely, actually. Yeah. And despite all the success, you had seen early on, like when you were in that low phase, did you see relationships changing? Because that's an unfortunate reality that happens in the industry.
So there are two kinds of relationships, right? There are relationships where you build with your peers and your co-stars that are very real, that stand the test of time. Absolutely. There are then relationships which you build with studios and producers and stuff like that. And at some point in time, you can't blame them for not looking at you in any other way, because there's money on the line. There's a lot of effort and sleepless nights, and so yes and no. I would not say that the industry has become so bitter that everybody is footloose and fancy free, and you're only a family till you do a movie. No, I don't generally buy into that. I can say quite vociferously that I still have amazing relationships with most of my co-stars and people, and I can pick up the phone anytime and say, hey man, come on, let's go out for dinner. I want to sit and chat with you, or whatever it is. Talking work, it's a different thing. They come with a different hat on, because everybody has worked hard to reach where they are, and you can't, take it for granted just because your friendship means a lot. I mean, those are very teeny bopper things to say.
And what's also interesting is you and of course your cousin Fardeen are coming back at the same time. Absolutely. So
extremely proud of Fardeen. He's been through a lot, and today's generation and the times we're living about instant gratification, where people can just pull out their cameras and make memes and you can psychologically destroy people just at the press of a button. And it takes great character and strength to walk the line. It takes a lot of great family members to show you the other side of the mirror, and some people you love that really, show you reality a little bit. And if you dig deep and you pull all of those things together, you still have a chance of coming out of it. So I think Fardeen has shown great character. I'm very proud of him. I think he's finally looking at it very correctly, like we all should have. But we came from a very different past. For us, movie making was all about camaraderie, drinking and celebrating and making music when somebody is not in their right frame of mind, but somehow that turns out to be a good tune and you take it straight to the studio. And creativity was in the hands of creative people. It wasn't in the hands of Suits. But I mean, I don't blame Suits. I think Suits have come and they've made verticals that things can actually be executed on. When back in the day, you could start a film 1 year, it could end 5 years later. And, there was no thing that was binding it together properly. A lot of people took a lot of risks, but there was much more passion in the air than there is now. I would say that for sure. The new generation also, while they have some excellent professionals, and hats off to their professionalism, and how there's some very frivolous kind of thinking also going on. But the best way for them to learn is life. So they need to. I think it would be absolutely wrong to correct them right now, because you will spoil their longer trajectory.
And with so many OTT projects happening, is that something you're excited about? Yeah. Like, do we see you doing that?
Yes, absolutely. I think, OTT has given a breath of fresh air to the kind of cinema you can approach, Otherwise, we were all sort of compelled to make cinema for the larger mass. And the larger mass are very simple people, They want simple entertainment. They want to break away from the chains of life. They want to go with their family and enjoy, have a laugh, have a cry, have a little romantic, sigh, who knows. And that was generally how we had packaged our films, to cater to that. Now, it comes to like when you keep doing that again and again and again, yeah, you know, some people ask me like, oh, you're such, you know, you guys are so like intelligent and all, why do you do all of this stuff? They don't understand that there's only 2% of them and there's 98% of everybody else. And the idea of it is to relate to 98%, not just 2%. But OTT has come and changed that. So you can also relate to the 2%. And you can make things that are out of the box. Very capable people in the OTT world right now, you know, who come with a super chart of experience and you know, good body of work, and you can really like push the boundaries to what you want to say and be a little adult, you know, which is so important. Otherwise, you're constantly unable to really juice out a moment, you know, because you have to be in this you category all the time. But having said that, I mean, I by and large like to make films for like families, and yeah, I mean 16 and above probably, but I by and large like to cater to, you know, that crowd, because that's what it is about, right? What is film and cinema about? Taking the family and going out and having a good time, or taking your friends and going out and having a good time.
And you also have a production house, so do we also see directing at some point?
Yeah, I've got a production house called Hungry Wolves Entertainment, and yes, I will don the director's hat at some point in time. I've been blessed to have been brought up in an environment where, when we thought about films, we didn't think about any one particular task in a film. You had to be the producer, the director, the actor, the editor, the production. So we were taught film from all aspects. I mean, even today, even when we made our film, I have my hands in everything, because it's like sort of a proxy showrunner, right? Yeah. I mean, now you've given it a technical term. Back in the day, that's what showrunning was, right? Like, I mean, without saying it, you were the person bringing everything together. As a storyteller and as a creative person, it is important to have that control. Otherwise, you know, human resource management is very taskful, you know, to make everybody see the same thing. And you have to have one person, not by title, but by logic, makes everybody else understand what's the common denominator for something like this. Yeah, and of course they have to respect your ideas at some point in time. If they think you're a cheesy person, you know, who's pretending to be the showrunner, then the project will speak for itself.
And of course, you've always spoken fondly about your co-stars. Abhishek, of course, you know, Abhishek Bachchan, then Hrithik, you have grown up with.
I'm very fond of ABJ. Abhishek and Ritesh and, you know, Suhail and Ashish and all these boys. I mean, they come from a burden of expectations, you know, and it's unfair to look at it in any other way. Very, very thoughtful people, very concerned about other people's, especially the people they like and they're working with and they feel the same vibe for. It's like money talks but wealth whispers, right?
Yeah.
You will have those crackpot characters also. At the face of it, you'll be like, yeah, what's up, man? How are you? And all of that. Yeah. But you don't really want to, like, you know, have a dinner with them or anything like that. Yeah. You know, so, but that's all right. It's okay.
Thank you so much for doing this. It was a lovely conversation. Thank you,
Natasha. It's great to have you here, and it was a very intimate little discussion we had. And looking forward to all you guys watching my next film. As usual, unfortunately I can't talk about it right now, but I will give Natasha a sneak peek into the promo after this, so that she knows exactly what we're doing. But thank you, and wait for TFTNW. It'll be out soon, and yeah, go laugh your heads off.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.